It's another beautiful morning. Thank you for making the time to join us right here on this channel, Joy News. It's a beautiful Tuesday, and of course, we're grateful that you are here with us. You've chosen us. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. This is the all-new AM show. Coming up this morning, we're going to be delving into some crucial matters, starting with children in cocoa labor. I'm sure you've seen that Hotline documentary by now. 8:30 p.m. yesterday it aired, and it talks about how we have uncovered how in the Western North region, Electoral to be specific, children are being trafficked, sold basically, for as little as 800 or 1,000 Ghana cedis. Rashida, one of those who have been trafficked, says her master started using her when she was only 11 years old. She told investigative journalist Kwete Nati that she wants to go back to the classroom. But what will it take to nip this practice in the bud? Join us as we speak to the experts, as we speak to those who are concerned with child rights and more on this segment. In our second belt, we take a look, we go back to the UTAG strike. Now, the National Labour Commission has intervened. Yesterday, they put out a statement inviting the association to a stakeholders meeting come Wednesday. What exactly are the details of that statement? What should we expect come Wednesday? This morning, we'll be delving into the details and finding out what the response of that body is going to be. I'm talking about UTAG. But also coming up, was it a disastrous start? We'll leave it to you to decide. Yesterday in Group C, we had the Black Stars, and of course, you remember that in that group we have the Black Stars, we have the Comoros Islands, we have the Gabonese team, and we have the Atlas Lions from Morocco, but a very shaky start. I was asking myself why Jordan Ayew couldn't run so much. There was not enough bite in the team. And to add insult to injury, Andre Dede Ayew also he butted, the head of someone mistakenly and had his head bust up. So where do we go from here? We lost by a goal to nothing. Unfortunately for us, the Gabonese also whipped the Comoros Islands by a goal to nothing, even in the absence of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. We get into the details of that, what the future looks like for our Black Stars. All of that this morning on the AM show. Of course, news review and more coming your way as well. So don't you switch, don't you turn anywhere. We deliver the goods. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners. Joy 99.7.
Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get abreast of the news. And Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, is worried that 2 weeks into the new year, there is no clarity on when school children in basic schools will return to the classroom. The Bulsa South Member of Parliament contends children in private schools already in school will have an unfair advantage over their colleagues in public schools. Dr. Apak is warning that if the situation is not resolved immediately, he will haul the Education Minister before Parliament, which is set to resume next week.
If you are going to have a strong and robust educational system, you ought to pay a lot of attention to basic education. As we speak now, heads of basic schools in Ghana, public basic schools, teachers, don't know when basic schools, public basic schools, are going to reopen. The original communication that many had, particularly those who were seeking transfer to new schools, was that they should report before the 4th of this month to suggest that the schools should have opened on the 4th. That has not happened. As we speak today, private basic schools across the country have reopened, and yet we have no idea of exactly when public basic schools will reopen. This should be a cause for concern. And indeed, parents and teachers are worried about the fact that we don't seem to know when, and we don't seem to have a regular academic calendar now also for the basic school system.
As Deputy Ranking Member, have you tried to find out what exactly may be the challenge why these schools are still not reopening?
Well, I have not made contact with the Minister and I have not made contact with the Director General, but we shouldn't be asking them to do what they are being paid by the taxpayer to do. It is their responsibility to manage the educational sector of this country. We as members of Parliament clearly have oversight, and what I am doing is part of my oversight responsibility. So I expect that government, through the ministry or the Ghana Education Service, would come out and let the good people of this country know the reasons why public basic schools are yet to reopen. That is their responsibility. If they don't, when Parliament resumes, clearly we will file questions and perhaps look at inviting the minister to the committee.
On to our next story, and the University of Cape Coast is seeking partnership with African diaspora investors to expand the university's enterprise development agenda. According to the university, the phenomenon where students complete their courses at the various tertiary institutions and have to rely on government for employment should be a major concern to everyone. Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Professor Rosemond Bohene, has called for partnerships to modernize agriculture and deepen innovation and entrepreneurship among students to promote food security and reduce employment. Richard Kwejunyako has more in the following report.
Professor Rosemond Bohene shared the Vice Chancellor's vision strategy, which he believes could move the university on the path of entrepreneurship and broadly on enterprise development. She is seeking partnership to overturn the situation where students complete their university education and go job hunting. For her, the path the university has chosen is to make the students innovative and creative thinkers capable of becoming employers right after school.
So in the Vice Chancellor's vision strategy, we have championing entrepreneurship, and one of the things we've done is to establish a design thinking and innovation hub. We want to develop the creative and innovative ideas so that by the time our students leave here, they are not going to be job seekers, but they are also going to be job creators. And I believe that whilst you think of coming out with other things in relation to the university, these are some of the areas you can partner the university in. We are also looking at the modernization of agriculture. Now we are talking about food security, and we have a big land. Is there a way our brothers and sisters from the diaspora can partner the university? So we want to go into enterprise development.
Chairman of the African Diaspora Development Initiative in Ghana, Nana Obokesi Ampa I, says the idea of the Wakanda City of Return is not only to build a smart city that would make the Africans in the diaspora return home, but also to strengthen the education, health and commerce of the local people in Ghana, and the University of Cape Coast would play a crucial role in the establishment.
We want to work closely with the university because Cape Coast area is going to be the seat of what is about to happen. It's going to be the hub of everything diaspora, and then we cannot function properly without the input of existing institutions like yours. We have agreed with the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. We're going to build a surgery center over there. People who will travel from Ivory Coast all the way to Accra will just stop here to perform any specialized surgeries they want to do. Also, they have a container of medical equipment, medical supplies worth $300,000 coming right now.
Tufuhin of Atonkwa traditional area, Nana Kwame Kra, prayed the Wakanda City of Return would not be seen as establishing a gated community on the African continent, but as a tool to accelerate the development of the African continent. The donation forms part of the African Diaspora Development Initiative's commitment to partner existing institutions to support the people. Reporting for JoyNews, Richard Kwejunyako, Cape Coast.
Now, the management of the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital has been defending its decision to sack an accounts officer who dragged the hospital to Shraj over alleged misapplication of COVID-19 funds and abuse of office. The hospital says it dismissed Awuni Atreba for breaching its grievance protocols and peddling falsehood against management in a case yet to be heard by the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Speaking to Love News, Public Relations Officer for CATH, Kwame Frimpong, said it had not received any communication from Traj and refused to acknowledge the existence of any petition before the Commission.
The disciplinary processes into this case started long before the matter was sent to Traj. He had made allegations prior to going to Traj, and so the process were already on. As we speak, we've not been notified or invited or written to by Traj, either formally or informally. So as far as the board is concerned, it is unaware of any petition pending before Traj. We have internal grievance resolution mechanisms or channels. When we are staff, when you have issues, for instance, with your head, or if you're in charge, you write to your head. When you have issues with your head, you write to the line director, or you approach the line director. When you have issues with your line director, you approach the chief executive. When you have issues with the chief executive, you approach the board. And when you have issues with the board, you go to the Ministry of Health. That's the procedure. We have a disciplinary code that is clearly disseminated, widely disseminated in this hospital, that we are all subjected to.
Meanwhile, the petitioner, Awuni Atreba, has described his dismissal as a travesty of justice, saying he has not been given a fair hearing.
A matter has arisen, and we've taken the matter to Shraj, an independent body, arbiter, to decide. Then you say you have established. How did you establish that? How did the board establish that? What record of proceedings was presented to the board chairman, Nana Ifa Penting? I think that this is a travesty of justice. What the hospital has done, a complete travesty of justice.
Are you going to sue?
Sure, I am contemplating. Probably very soon they would hear. I'll sue for that. I try to get this erased, quashed, not suing for anything, but just to get the decision because it is patent on the face of the letter that I was not granted fair hearing. Natural justice, the odi otteram partem rule.
Well, Ghana has been implementing a no vaccination, no entry directive at the ports of entry and other public places as a measure to control the spread of variants of COVID-19 into the country. However, a religious group named Non-Denominational Believers Team wants a review of the directive, saying it is disappointed at the mandatory vaccination of Ghanaians. Members want government to focus more on growing the economy than pushing resources to restrict economic activities. Love FM's Emmanuel Osei has more.
Government has rolled out vaccination programs in many health facilities and centers to ensure majority of the population get protected against the COVID-19. The government expects more Ghanaians to be vaccinated in order to reach herd immunity to the virus. Currently, the Ministry of Health demands proof of vaccination before access to its offices. This means many unvaccinated persons will be denied entry into their workplaces, which will further reduce productivity in the country. The Non-Denominational Believers Team, a religious group, claims the mandatory nature of vaccination is against their fundamental human rights to life, respect for private life, and freedom of religion. Evangelist Francis Ewusi is a leading member of the group.
If this one become a force in our society, if I can do this work and I say I won't do it again, then they will eliminate me. So if they eliminate me, it will be very difficult for someone to step in my shoes. So that will bring the economy one by. So people are now. If you don't vaccinate, or if you are not being vaccinated, you can't come here, you can't do here. That will bring the economy down. And assuming now, I want to remove all my money from bank, because I've heard that a day will come that they will say you can't go to bank. So if I can't go to bank, that means I have to remove my money right now.
Hundreds of its members held a forum dubbed Stop the Forced Vaccination, where leaders took turns explaining why the vaccine should not be forced on them. Members held placards with inscriptions, "No forced vaccination, my body, my right. The blood of Jesus is our vaccine," among others.
We disagree!
Prophet Francis Kofi Annan is chairman of the Non-Denominational Believers Team.
Nothing can be forced upon the citizens of this nation, because no one can force me to eat. When I visit the hospital and I say, no, I will not take any drugs, it is my will. And that is my power. My will is my power. So, in fact, that is our concern. So we are appealing to them to come back and say no. And if they don't say no, then the action that we are going to take is a demonstration against it.
The group says they are not against the vaccine rollout, but the mandatory nature it poses. Dorcas Alimo is an officer at ECG. She is worried the mandatory vaccination will affect her and the family.
ECG is resuming work officially today, but here I am because circular has been issued that without vaccination card, I can't go to the office. And I'm so worried. I don't want to take the vaccination because of my right to health care. Even the health charter says that when I am sick and I go to the hospital, before the the doctor can attend to me and give me any medication, he has to explain for my understanding. And with this vaccination, nobody has explained anything. All that is being said is that it is going to give us protection.
Ghanaians have not had any updates so far as to if the vaccination is working, if it's adversely affecting the people of Ghana, if it needs to be continued, if it needs to be looked at before we haven't had any of such thing.
The Ghana Health Service, however, say the vaccine is safe and advise that all persons be vaccinated. From Kumasi, Emmanuel Osei reporting.
Let's turn our gaze to the exploitation of children now. And a joint team of police and officials of Cocoa Board have arrested 8 farmers cited in JoyNews' latest expose, Children in Cocoa Labor. The documentary reveals that 5,000 cedis is how much a trafficker requires to recruit at least 7 children from the northern part of the country to work on cocoa farms. Head of Public Relations at Cocoa Board, Fifi Boafo, says they are opposed to children working on cocoa farms and will do everything to protect them.
As was indicated at the press conference, Ghana Cocoa Board do not subscribe to any acts of child labor within the cocoa industry, and wherever we find it, we shall ensure that we deal with it. So upon seeing the documentary, we have reported the matter to the police, who have arrested and invited the people and currently taking them through the process. With the identified children, our officers are also in touch. The process will help us in identifying and then also understand and appreciate their situation better. And then based on that, through the collaboration with other government agencies, get them, if it's a case that they've been moved from somewhere else, get them reunited with their family. The issue about child labor is not exclusive within the cocoa industry. And of course, the Ministry of Labor, together with its agencies, are working on that. So identifying that there's something like that, it is something we'll collaborate with the relevant agencies to ensure that the right thing is done. Cocoa Board plays the role within the cocoa industry, but there are some specific activities that are within the domain of some other government agencies. But we have a very strong synergy within us, and based on that, we'll leverage on it and get the issues resolved. So far, 8 persons per the information given, 1 in Western North and 7 in the Ashanti region, who are helping the police with investigations. Cocoa Board takes very seriously any report which portrays a child of school-going age as having engaged in activities on a cocoa farm that should be construed as child labor. We and the government have taken a strong stance against child labor of any kind and condemn any act which undermines effort aimed at ensuring sustainability in the cocoa industry. Any case of child labor has a negative impact on the reputation of the country on the international stage. Fortunately, these incidents are not common practices in Ghana's cocoa industry. Ordinarily, one will not see farmers openly engaged in such practices when one visits our cocoa communities, and that is the testament of the fact that our sensitization efforts and interventions are yielding some results. That notwithstanding, the documentary shows that there are yet some criminal elements set on defying the government policy and undermining the serious effort of Cocoa Board to eradicate child labor in cocoa production. We have already reported the situation as unearthed in the documentary to the police, and some arrests have already been effected in Ashanti and Western North regions. All suspects and persons of interest are currently going through the legal process. We have similarly alerted the police on, we shall similarly alert the police on any other case related to child labor which comes to our attention, for the persons involved to be apprehended and prosecuted.
Well, this is a crucial matter, and it's going to feature big as we bring you our big stories later on the show. Up next, though, we're going to have a news review with Oliver Baka-Vomawo of the Fix the Country group. Do stay.
What's up, guys? My name is Sammy Forson, host of the Weekend City Show and Ignition right here on Joy 99.7 FM. Well, anytime you happen to be busy and you miss out on your favorite shows right here on Joy FM, here's what you can do. Log on to myjoyonline.com/podcast. Just go on there and you'll find all your shows on demand 24/7. There you can catch up. Remember, Joy FM remains your radio for discerning listeners.
Well, time now for us to dig into the news review. And just so you know as well, the Fix the Country group has filed a petition for the removal of the Electoral Commission in connection with the denial of SAL of the right to vote. And so we'll be giving you some details of that as well as we interact with Oliver Baka-Vomawo, who joins us via Zoom. We'll be interacting shortly with him. Do we have Oliver yet?
You do, yes.
Great. A very good morning to you. At least where you are. Is it morning where you are?
It is.
Okay.
Trying as much as possible not to give out my location, but yes, it is.
Obviously, there are so many time zones where it could be morning, but we're so grateful you took the time to join us. So let's start with the papers, the snapshots that you may have. I mean, topical issues. In fact, I think we should go down right to the Fix the Country bit. Let's start from there. This petition for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner in connection with the denial of the people of, Selukope, Likpe, Lolobi, and all of that, the right to vote. Why now? Why now?
First of all, thank you. Let me clarify that it's about the commission, not just the commissioner. Because, the commission is one of joint responsibility. And we understand that this is I suspect that this is whatever decisions concerning this may have been taken as a commission.
Okay.
But why now? Look, it's been a year of just sitting on the wings and hoping that something changes, right? Like, we know that the harm that was done to the people of SAL crystallized on the day in which they were denied the right to vote. But at least everybody was hoping that, something would be done by our politics to correct this.
Right.
Like, we would not treat this as, business as usual, that we would all mobilize efforts to ensure that people have the right to vote. But for some reason, I don't know, it's kind of been deprioritized over as the times has gone on. And particularly because it's been a year, and since the last government was sworn in, that we felt like, if nobody's going to take accountability for this, this is what Fix the Country is about. This is what the kind of conversations we want to be able to push. And that's why we decided that, look, let's strike now and do it now. But also importantly, we want to depoliticize conversations about holding people to account.
Right.
So we don't want to wait a situation whereby maybe government changes or we're going into election year and people feel that this is about elections, right? No, that's not what we're interested in. We're interested in accountability now for unconstitutional actions by officers of the highest level.
So speaking of this, you say unconstitutional actions. Of course, the Electoral Commission has explained itself extensively concerning the situation, where they found themselves, and why this had to happen. And it has also specified that moving forward, there are going to be adequate measures put in place ahead of election 2024. So don't you think you are shooting, just missing, like shooting a miss? Don't you think you are not hitting any target in this? Because it's something that they said they would do anyway.
Well, my understanding of basketball is that you miss all the shots that you don't take. And the reason why we are doing this, and in fact, the Electoral Commission hasn't explained this at all. It's one of the issues that it hasn't addressed. I know that the people of SAL have written severally to the Commission, and it's completely just ignored their letters. And it's a level of administrative and institutional insensitivity that is shocking to me, to be honest. But the reason why we are doing this, look, you have to treat this as going to court, for instance, right?
Right.
That you believe that all the facts assembled point in a particular direction. And we are so confident in that belief. Now, when we do go there, that's why our Constitution creates a process.
Right.
That the Chief Justice determines whether or not a breach of the Constitution would suffice as a prima facie case to establish a commission. Now, we know that in previous instances, it has even looked at a breach of a procurement law and said that suffices and was the basis for removal in past instances. We believe that when the Constitution has been breached, the Constitution, which has the highest, supremacy in our political order or democracy, that the same level of urgency and attention will be attended to it. It is not just about, oops, I effed up or I made a mistake, let's move on and forget all about this. Or like the finance minister went to court and to parliament and said, sorry, the health minister went to parliament and said, oh, when I signed this contract, I wasn't thinking. And it was like, oh, he admitted it, now let's move on. No.
But Oliver, when the Constitution is breached, where do you go? You go to court. You pack your books, you take your documents, and that has been suggested time without number. So why is the country not doing that?
So the Constitution creates a varied mechanisms for holding people to account. So this measure we are taking is actually within the Constitution, right? Like it is within the remit of the Constitution to consider whether the actions taken rise to the threshold of stated misbehavior or incompetence. And this is one of the things we are deploying in this case. Now, when you go to court, the remedy we are seeking now is not available in court.
Which is what? Which is
holding people to account for what happened on that day. Like you cannot get it in court.
Are you suggesting? I mean, we had the PPA, former PPA boss issue. We've had myriad incidents in this country where people are taken to court, and it also has to do with probity and accountability. So I want you to explain properly why you're saying that you will not get your remedy in court.
So lawyers being the persons who are not generally committed to justice by only doing a business, have created all kinds of technical rules around standing.
Is that how you describe lawyers?
And listen, it's a profession I'm part of, and I means no words about the role of the legal profession in fostering injustice. But we have created all kinds of technicalities around what is standing, what is whether or not your claim can be cognizable by courts, and all kinds of legal jumbo that confuses the masses. But the bigger issue in this case is that if you want to hold people accountable for what happened in SAL and the decisions around their denial to vote, there's no mechanism by which you can go to court and get that. You may go to court and institutionally, and the court would say what they did was wrong. That's it. The individuals themselves cannot be held accountable with a declaratory relief, or even when the court orders them to go back and rerun elections, right? Like the persons who have made that decision, which is going to cost us a lot of money, which is brought for a number of people, particularly in SAL, this sense of exclusion, are not going to get any sense of, retribution or justice through the mechanism that just says, okay, let's rerun elections and we are good to go. Okay. But the mechanism that the Constitution creates for holding individuals accountable is what we have, looked at and deployed. Hopefully, it hits its target, and Ghanaians are more confident that when Constitution is breached, they can have a remedy through all means.
It's been a long time since we heard from the EC boss, Jean Mensah. Maybe you want to get her out so we hear from her more. We'll be delving into the papers shortly, but finally on this bit, right before we get into the papers, so targeting the EC boss, to what end? Is it just the EC boss? Because mind you, she has deputies, and they are all working hand in glove. So to what end? And if you do that, you know what you're triggering. It means we need a new EC boss, and all the ramifications that has in our checkered political history, especially in the Fourth Republic. What's your take on that, quickly?
Well, first of all, no, we are not only targeting the EC boss. We are targeting the commission. Right. We've decided to make a decision that we're going for the chair and the deputies. But there's other 4 members of the commission. And now we are focusing the responsibility on the persons who have, who are in leadership of the commission, to take the buck stops with, those who are leaders in this case. And that's what we are doing.
Right.
But in terms of, I think a lot of times when we measure constitutional wrong and holding people to account for it, I don't think that the biggest loss to our democracy is the fact that, Ms. Jean Mensah, who I know very well, we work together in the Constitution Review Commission.
Right.
It has, has been sent home. It's no longer is out of a job. No, the bigger harm we're trying to correct is the harm to our moral conscience as a people, who have
Okay.
seen our democracy bruised in a particular way. The harm is to the people of SADC, the harm is to the people of SADC, who have to sit on the sidelines. You know, I read one of the letters they sent to the Electoral Commission, and they describe themselves as feeling as being a colony within a Ghana where they're subject to the legislative mandates of their fellow citizens, and they have no right to participate in. And that kind of broke me in a little. I've seen people talk about a sense of if this has happened in other parts of Ghana, the response would have been different, and that this would have never happened in Menchia South or Bekwai or any other place. And that sense of ethnic exclusion, we have to be very careful about those sentiments, that we don't sweep it out of the carpet and say, no, it's fine, forget about it.
Right.
I think we have come together and said that, listen, let's deal with this as a democratic society. Let's have the honest conversation and let's hold people to account so we can move this democracy forward. This is all this is about.
Okay, well, we wish you the very best in that enterprise. And of course, as it develops, as you cook it up, we'll see what emanates from it. I don't know how hopeful you are, though, that you will achieve what you're actually putting out there. Can you answer that with just a yes or no or something?
I am optimistic that those who have to do the right thing will do the right thing.
Okay. All right. Those who have to do the right thing.
Unless you have a different view as to...
Does that suggest the appointee, that who is in this bit, Mr. President, would have to... You're calling on the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to axe EC boss Jean Mensah, Dr. Bosman Asare, and others from their jobs. I mean, is that what it comes down to?
No, absolutely not. The President has no authority and no power to do that. He has only one job. He's a messenger of the Chief Justice in this case. So he has to just take the letter and dispatch it as quickly as he can. That's all. That's his only role. Now
okay. So once he does the forwarding, which is practically tantamount to, then you're hoping that
his job is done.
Okay.
Yes, I've actually seen in previous years where the President has taken on the role and reversed back to the petitioners in replying them that this is the decision of the Chief Justice. I actually think that's wrong. The Chief Justice would have to write directly to us, but that's beside the point. His role is done when he submits the letter, and that's it.
Oliver, let's get into some of the papers this morning and some interesting stories. Preserve country's unity. Asante Hene charges media. That is the major story there. And the Asante Hene Otumfuose to the second has appealed to the media to help protect and preserve the unity of the country. Of course, he is in no means saying that what we do here, for example, standing for independent, fearless and credible journalism can't be practiced, but we must do what is right. So that's the Daily Graphic newspaper. That's the banner headline. And this one might interest you, Oliver. Students plead with government to address UTAG concerns. And this is a long-standing issue. I'm sure you followed that entire enterprise, Oliver. During your time, did those strikes happen? I mean, your time schooling in Ghana, did you face any of those?
No, I had a misfortune of doing my bachelor education in Morocco.
Okay.
So I kind of skipped over, insensitive employers and employees being aggrieved and having to resort to labor actions like this. But I mean,
but you must have heard. You must have heard. Maybe some of your friends, colleagues.
Definitely,
right?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's become routine in our politics that these actions of this case have to be undertaken before people kind of feel like, okay, fine, let's do something about it. But we have to remember that it's usually a last resort measure, and I'm disappointed that it has dragged on for this long. I remember when there were talks about the strike action and the court issuing an order. One of your colleagues, Samson Yenini, talked about how a judge had denied them the right to go on the action. And this is an Article 71 holder who was being insensitive to single spine salary holders. And I think those are some of the inequities that exist in our system. My hope is that it gets resolved as quickly as possible. I don't think this should continue as it has.
Well, on Wednesday, the National Labour Commission will be meeting with the affected parties. We'll see what transpires from there. In other stories, page 16, updated app improves SIM card registration. And the long winding queues and frustration on the faces of subscribers who call at the offices of mobile network operators or mobile telecommunication companies to register their SIM cards have seen an improvement. You can share with us at some point on social media whether the situation has in fact improved as you've been going out there. And on the back page, Oliver, this one might interest you as well. Morocco stunned Ghana with a late winner, sometime in the 70-something minute, and it was disappointment for me. Did you watch the match? Did you follow?
I did follow the match. It was very disappointing for me to see us lose.
You schooled in Morocco. How did you feel?
I was in Morocco for,
you know,
as a young boy, actually. I was in Morocco for 16 years. I stayed in Morocco for 6 years.
Right.
It's a country I love, but not not. I have no mixed allegiances when it comes to my football.
I see.
So no, it was disappointing to see this lose, and I think that a lot of my Moroccan friends have been needling me about it over throughout the night. Hopefully we can, we've done a lot of the calculations and the permutations. We can be able to recover and go on and win the tournament. For some reason, I can't remember. I think the first time we won as well, we lost our first match. So maybe this is the God speaking to us, that you have to go through this and then find your feet at the last minute.
I think, Oliver, we've become a people that are, I don't want to say too spiritual, rather I think maybe too superstitious. We're always thinking, oh, this is a sign of this and that, and hopefully this and that, and we work the mathematics, and at 90-something% of the time we get the math wrong when it comes to football. I mean, Morocco was not the Morocco of Mustafa Hadji or anything. They were not extraordinary yesterday. And you would expect that a team that was a pale shadow of itself, we could have at least earned a draw with them. But even that, we could not get. I was sorely disappointed. Sorely disappointed.
But let's say this, right? Like, the Black Stars is also not the Black Stars of old, right? Like, we have to recognize that. I saw somebody talk about, retiring some of the older guys and trying to start from the basics, as some other countries have done in the past. I think Senegal, and kind of invest in the younger players and see whether we can get back to where we were at some point. But that's one of the realities of our football. I know that people are already calling for a referendum on the continuance of Milovan. But yeah, it's a general lack of quality in the Black Stars generally, and I don't fault them for it. Right? You can only be as good as your abilities allow you. But this is disappointing nonetheless. I think that we had the qualities and the chops at least to beat Morocco. Morocco has not been as impressive in any of their matches so far. And kind of, the Algeria loss, for instance, kind of put a bit of, maybe this is not good as we thought it's going to be.
Right.
But hopefully we see what progresses.
Interestingly, Morocco had also lost to the Algerians, and we followed suits, but faced them and also lost. Let's do the Daily Guide newspaper now. Consider 2 sessions of dialysis on NHIS. First, Sky Boss appeals to government. There's serve as links to Peace Otumfuo to the media. Police probe NDC boy's false aircraft allegation. It's interesting they refer to him as an NDC boy. It's actually in reference to Mensa Thompson and some of what he's been saying. Then 93 million Ghana cedi Maslock scandal. That is the banner headline. Mahama girl still missing. And the girl in question, Sedinam Tamaklu. Accident kills 12 at Sefi Bibieni. When you go to the entertainment page, it says, I've never enjoyed going to church. That's according to Majid Michel. He was speaking on our sister station, Joy 99.7 FM. And it almost came to blows on the Angela Bamford show. We can also find the story of Jim Ike's assault on fellow actor being a stunt, and Tracy Boache flaunts new house in Germany. All of those stories. But from the Daily Guide newspaper, what I'd like to run by you, again, no disclosure of where you are, not important, but you notice how in other jurisdictions, healthcare systems, especially when it comes to kidney issues and dialysis and all of that, there are frameworks to ensure that people, because these are very expensive, we're still yet to get there as a country. What's your quick take on that, Oliver?
Listen, I've lost friends who have kind of just been waiting because of this functionality around dialysis in Ghana, and it's a sore point for me, to be honest. That this is something that we continue to deal with. It really honestly doesn't make much sense to me. But I mean, sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint what the problem is. It's a symptom for me of a dysfunctional healthcare system. And I'm being mindful as well that, for somebody like me who believes that, we need to go back, we need to rethink the framework of how we have governed various sectors. I don't want to treat this as, wherever there's because I have a hammer in hand, everything must appear as a nail. but people are losing their lives. And for me, that's like the minimum test of your democracy. People are losing their lives for something as basic as dialysis machines and things like that. So, but this is a Ghana where people lose their lives for lack of bed, right? And we name it lack of bed syndrome. So I don't know. I've never experienced this in anywhere else. And I think that a lot of times when people, especially when the people of a certain age kind of are attracted to live abroad, it's more because of, understanding that sometimes your healthcare system could kill you, which is the case of Ghana a lot of the times. How we deal with this as a nation, listen, it defies, I don't know, it defies our normal
logic,
electoral politics. It defies our normal electoral politics, at least, because both parties have had their share in government, and this is a problem that translates and continues to come on and on. These appeals are fairly frequent. I have at least been part of one initiative where private citizens were trying to procure some dialysis machines as well, actually for people. Now, in this case here, we're talking about a national health insurance scheme and people's ability to access it. In fact, the problem goes beyond that. The reason why we are talking about consider 2 sessions is not a cost issue. It's more about availability of machines and whether you'll be overburdening the systems if you make it, you make a second session free for persons on NHIS. That's really where the core issue lies, and not even a cost issue. That's why I'm kind of talking about availability of dialysis machines in general. But yeah, it ties in as well to the Equity in National Health Insurance Scheme. I remember many years ago when President Mills had promised that you're going to have a one-time premium about this. I got involved in health policy making around national health insurance, and I know that that's sorely underfunded, and the problems, the teething problems we're having, were always known even many years back about some of the challenges in funding healthcare for so many Ghanaians who do not have decent healthcare.
Let's get into the Finder newspaper. Let's find out what they have found. And GJA print packs seek better conditions for journalists. The story on page 9, talking about the fact that these bodies have commended government for being a worthy partner of the media by rolling out professional improvement initiatives like the Media Capacity Enhancement Program. And the bodies are hopeful that the program would equip journalists to arrest the falling standards of the profession. They also touch on the conditions of service and the welfare of media practitioners, both present and those on retirement. Oftentimes, sometimes not just the actors and actresses, the footballers or the sports people, you're a media person too, with some clout, but at the tail end of your career or after you are done, sometimes it's not so rosy. So what can be done to aid those people? Well, that is a story you can check out. Also on that page, COCOBOD enforcing zero tolerance policy on child labor. Of course, that is tied to our latest hotline documentary, and that is Fifi Boafo of COCOBOD speaking there. There's also strike is UTAG being unfair based on documents it signed with state agencies. Those are questions. But I want to put this one to you. The Daily Dispatch says, NPP or NDC, who will be first to put a Gardangme as its running mate? That story is on page 12 of the paper. Oliver, does it matter? Does it matter? Is this not unfair or unnecessary ethnic sentimentalization coming into the picture? Does it matter whether the person is from here or there once the person qualifies? Does it matter?
This is a question that goes back to the beginnings of this republic. We have to first of all contend with the fact that in as much as we are asking everybody to put, their ethnic backgrounds and persuasions down as we're trying to form this Ghana unit, it's a difficult thing, a balance to achieve. In some places, they embrace it, I remember Obama talking about America being forged from, it's a how do you call it? A country made out of its diversity and its differences. And that's what we are as well. Now, the Constitution has addressed this point, for instance, because it matters that we need to talk about ethnic representation. We need to talk about a sense of, everybody feeling like they're part of this republic. So it's easy to, I think the easier thing would feel is that, okay, we've all forgotten this. We don't see color. And then we are all go happy Ghanaians in all. But I think when you think about it, it's somehow like, you know, a young lady sitting at home and saying that I'm not seeing a lot of women on TV, and so I don't feel represented. I don't see a lot of women in leadership, and that doesn't give me a sense of belonging. I guess this is where some of these sentiments sometimes come from.
Right.
I personally, as an individual, you know, I'm more drawn to merit than ethnicity. Right. I speak 5 Ghanaian languages. I wish I could speak more. And so I've kind of been able to blend in all these spaces. And I kind of hope that a lot more Ghanaians are able to be more multicultural, and the mixture happens at a more rapid pace, that we speak different languages and we're more fluid. All these things would ease those sentiments, because we would then belong to every group and nobody feels like, when the census is carried out, some people are labeled as other, and all those small things that we don't pay attention to.
That's a very important point you make.
So I think the way forward is really how we become much more multicultural ourselves as individuals. And remember, that was part of the CBB project by Nkrumah, by ensuring that we have these boarding houses, and then we can all go across the country and live with other people and do that. And that's something that we have to continue to treat with urgency. And the more we do things like that, the more it honestly wouldn't matter where people are coming from, because you would have a person who maybe ethnically is of an Ewe or Ashanti extraction, who actually speaks perfect Dagbani and has lived in some Dagoma land for a very long time.
And that also is why in our constitutional framework and historically, we even didn't want parties that were ethnic group related. You remember that at a point there was the attempt to create a Northern People's Party, for example, on the back of certain developments.
Yes.
And that was, just jettisoned because of the nature of these things. So it also feeds into that. If we are not doing this, why are we looking at ethnicity when it comes to who should lead a party rather than qualification? The Daily Statesman, as you want to react quickly? Do you want
I was
to
going to say quickly that one of the biggest worries or fears around ethnicity is it being politicized, because it can be quickly instrumentalized by certain nefarious groups to create some sort of civil strife. And that's kind of why we are always tentative and afraid of how it might be instrumentalized. But it's also, it continues to exist in our politics, if not formally in terms of creation of parties, but also this sense of we have traditionally, as a people of this extraction, voted for X, and so we must continue to do so. I deplore the language of World Bank and our homeland and all kinds of things that we joke facetiously about, or we talk about, but we don't see it as being a danger in itself. And in fact, in principle, defeating this notion that we cannot form parties around ethnic lines.
Okay, we have a little time left. Let's make the most of it. The biggest story I see for me in the Daily Statesman has to do, because some of the other stories have been done in other papers, but Shraj urges Ghanaians to know their rights. This was on the back of the 7th and Constitution Day. I forget who exactly was telling or mentioning to us recently that when you look at a survey they had conducted, how most Ghanaians don't have copies of the Constitution, whether soft or hard, and most of them have never even read the contents of the Constitution and all of that. What exactly do you think? If there were one thing that you could say we should do as a country to ensure that people are abreast of what even are in our law books, what would you say?
Yes, so the country did that survey you are referring to. And it's really sad to see the, sort of constitutional apathy, as I call it. If I had one thing to suggest, I think we need to make the Constitution a compulsory subject from primary education back straight to the university. That we are all well versed in it. It doesn't have to be the preserve of law.
Know it like the back of our hands.
Yes, that's the biggest harm to our democracy, and people feel like we don't even know what to do. Like when we have been in the field trying to educate people, people can distinguish between what all these things, the fancy things we talk about, 3 arms of government, and like people don't even have a blurred understanding of our democracy. Right. And I think that's a real challenge, and I completely agree with that call.
My final bit to you, Oliver, as we wrap. So this statement you've put out, this petition, this call that you've put out, it's now out there. What is the next step for Fix the Country when it comes to the Electoral Commission and the removal of Jean Mensa and her deputies? What's the next step?
So for purposes of public education, the Constitution requires that the president forward this to the Chief Justice.
Mm-hmm.
The Chief Justice then does just a cursory reading of it and says, does this make sense? Does this seem like there's some case to answer here? And when he finds that there's a case to answer, he must then immediately convene a committee of 5, made up of 3 judges and 2 persons who are not judges, who are not members of the Council of State, to sit on and deliberate the issue, and then we investigate this. I know that in previous time, the president has acted with dispatch. I think in the petition brought against Charlotte Osei, it took 6 days. In fact, it was a document which was unsigned and undated, that they waited a lawyer to do that correction and send it within 6 days. There was a subsequent follow-up petition that took less than 2 weeks for them to send it.
Right.
So we are confident that within a week and maximum of 2, that process would go off, and then the Chief Justice then can then deliberate on this, and then we can have the process that hopefully it kind of reveals a bit more about the critical last hours of how the EC came to issue that notice. And all we seek is answers, really. Like, let's live in transparency, and that's all this is about.
Oliver, it's been insightful. It's been good. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And keep rooting for Ghana. Keep rooting for Ghana.
That has a lot of different meanings. I don't want to read any subtext into. But yes, I'll keep rooting for Ghana.
Okay. I see where you're thinking, but don't go there, Oliver.
Nothing but mischief in my mind, I tell you.
Don't go there.
But yeah.
All right, top of the morning to you, and do have a good one.
Yeah, good one. You too. Bye.
Right. Oliver Barker, former of Fix the Country, the group, he joined us for this morning's news review. Up next, we'll be bringing you some sporting action. Do stay with us on the AM Show.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Well, the sports is up next, and we're serving it hot with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. I told you yesterday that this was going to be...
Why is it hot?
It's hot because you are hot. You are hot right now. What you have to tell Ghanaians. The tail of the tape yesterday, look, I was scandalized by the... for lack of a better word, the laziness, the lack of aggression of the team, especially a certain Jordan Ayew. I don't know, sometimes he looks so...
No, it is a team performance. It is a team performance. But you're picking that on an individual.
It's a team performance.
Yes.
And I would say that I would segregate. I would put Andre Dede Ayew aside.
Okay.
I feel he's a warrior on the pitch any day, even when he's having a bad day. Yesterday wasn't the best of days.
Okay.
He bumped into the Moroccan player, got his head. I was hoping he wouldn't have a concussion or anything. But some of the team members, I mean, what was that? It was so lazy, almost as though there was no urgency about the team.
So are you looking at it from the performance of the team, or you're looking at it from the boys being lazy? Because if you look at it critically, I don't think Milovan was too cautious. When you're too cautious, these are some of the things that happen.
I mean, Jordan was not performing.
Sometimes you need to take a risk.
In the 85th minute.
Sometimes you need to take a risk. He refused to take a risk. It got to a point Ghana had Morocco by the ropes, but did not take advantage of it.
Right.
Milovan had to wait till he conceded a goal before he decided he was going to make substitutions.
But even then, it was in the 70-something minute. It took up to the 85th minute. I mean, when you have to what do you do with that?
At a point where Ghana had Morocco at the ropes, that was a point you needed more blood. But he said he didn't want to make unnecessary changes. That's quite questionable from a coach who feels that, well, come on, this is not it.
Well, it's not going to cut it for me. I mean, with this performance, the Moroccans were nothing extra, and we couldn't beat them. Let's see what happens with Gabon and the Comoros, who are also tough. Gabon could only pip them by a goal to nothing.
There's a possibility.
But take it over, Muftar.
Thank you very much, Ben. I am Muftar Abla. This is AM Sports. And did you know that Ghana's game against Morocco was their 100th in the African Cup of Nations since they started participating in the competition in 1963. The Black Stars were making their 23rd appearance in the competition, and on their centenary fixture against the Moroccans, it ended in tears, as some people would put it, as Boufal scored the only goal to hand Morocco all maximum points on the opening day of Group C.
All set then, ready for kickoff. It's Morocco kicking off in red and green, and kicking from left to right in this first half up against Ghana. Boufal then delivers hard, and it's just over the top from Saiss. Looked like it was on target in itself, that free kick. Barkok, Eintracht Frankfurt, and El Kawabi for Hatayspor have tested positive for COVID. Ghana on the attack, but again, there's no support coming forward quickly enough. However, Morocco give it away, and the chances handled away there, and the first real save in the game is needed. Jiku with the long ball forward. It was speculative, really, trying to use the pace there of Sulirama, who picked out his man. Agard made the clearance, back in by Pencil, and that was heading for the top corner. And at the moment, I would say that the other two sides will not fear what they've seen. Chance now, oh, and there it is! The fear factor kicks in, and Sofiane Boufal gets the opener inside the last 8 minutes. Vahid Halilhodžić is thrilled. They celebrate together, and the Angers man snaps into action. Only the second goal he scored in his 23 international appearances for the Atlas Lions. A mistake in the Guyana defence setting up the chance, and he turned around like a flick knife to send that into the back of the net. Well, the kind of an assist goes with Zakaria Aboukal, but it was a defensive touch that fed it into the path. Achraf Hakimi takes a little glug of water as the free kick comes in, and another good chance. Tissoudali, number 28 in the middle of your screen. Well, he might have had a case. Good ball in by Boufal, right into the danger area. Oh, they're through again. Morocco twisting and turning, getting the chance. Good save by Wallacott. And in the end, do they really need to create one? They just need to keep the ball. Referee blows for full time here in Yaoundé.
Now let's hear from head coach of the Black Stars, Milovan Rajvac, who has said that his decision not to make early substitutions in the game were to ensure that he doesn't unnecessarily disrupt the performance of the team. Also, he indicated that Morocco were lucky to have gotten the win because Ghana did not take the chances that came their way.
It was a tough match. We were expecting a tough match. Morocco is one of the best teams in Africa, so it was opening match of the competition.
Mislim da su oni bili malo srećniji, da su pobedili utakmicu, mi smo imali tu neke šanse koje su bile baš dobre, mi smo uspjeli da damo gol i kad sam mislio da je sve gotovo, neshvatljivo je kako smo primili gol.
We didn't use our chances today, and I think Morocco team was a little bit luckier in the end. When we were expecting that the game is coming to a close, you know, this happened, so
Ništa, čestitam Maroku. Ima dve utakmice, zadovoljan sam sa igračima, zadovoljan sam sa igrom. Imamo dve utakmice, tako da gledamo da prođemo grupu.
And I want to congratulate to the Morocco team for the victory, and I want to congratulate to my boys for fighting so hard Still, we have two additional matches in the group, so we have to concentrate on these matches now, so we can progress from the group stage to the next stage.
Iskoristimo I orijentirali smo se da probamo iza leđa da odigramo Maroku, međutim imali smo 2-3 šanse, baš zrele šanse, međutim nismo postigli gol. Baš iz takvih akcija.
We are trying. We have various approaches to the game, so it depends how the situation develops on the pitch. So we always want to create chances, and today we created in counterattacks and some shots from the outside. Unfortunately we didn't score, but we were very close to score the goal. So let's see. I hope that we will have opportunity to create more chances and to score more goals in the upcoming matches.
Svi su stajali dobro, sve to teklo, međutim pad koncentracije sigurno da je bio kod primljenog gola. Kažem, ja nisam baš dobro video sve to kako je ispalo, ali vidjet ćemo, tako da mislio sam da je sve zatvoreno i da tu nemamo nikakvi problem.
Everything was pretty tight, and the team was functioning well, and I really felt we have everything under control. I have to analyze the goal we conceded, so I can say more about, because everything was going well, so there was no need to make some unnecessary changes, because up to the moment we conceded the goal, we had the full control in the match.
Now let's hear from Milovan's Rivals captain Andre Ayew, who says that 2 days before the game against Morocco, he was ill, but his teammates needed him most on the pitch, and he decided to fight for the colours of the country. And unfortunately, the illness he had suffered a couple of days ago was compounded by that defeat to Morocco, which he described as a disappointing one.
Been feeling well for the past 2 days. But, I wanted to play. My colleagues wanted me on the field, so I did everything to be on the field. We have been waiting for this moment for 3 years. So yeah, unlucky to add to that a cut, but it's football. No problem. We are very disappointed to concede in the last minutes. I think we showed a solid team. This is one of the favorites of the tournament. We went head-to-head with them. I'm very calm, and I'm very confident that we will go to the next stage, and that's why we're here. No, I think we can get through, and we will get through, because it's our duty. We will make sure that we get to the next stage. But like you said, in 2010 we lost the first game. In 2015 we lost the first game. It's not something that we were expecting, but we are going to go back to the hotel, rest, and really.
One of the star men of the Black Stars in the defeat to Morocco was Joseph Pencil. He says that the Black Stars will redeem themselves when they come up against Gabon in the next game of the competition.
Yeah, unfortunately, we wanted to win, but unfortunately it just turned out to be a 1-0 by mistake. But this is football. We don't need to put our heads down. We need to keep going like always, because we have 2 games ahead. And everything is possible, and we will do everything to redeem ourselves.
In the other games of the African Cup of Nations, Senegal needed a late penalty to secure maximum points when it came up against Zimbabwe. And Guinea also defeated Malawi by 1-0.
Big defenders come up for Senegal. It's a deep delivery. Goalkeeper was stranded. Really was in no man's land. Abu Cisse knows that was a chance. Goalkeeper completely misjudges it. It's a free header for Cisse. He's got to be getting those on target. Goes for goal, and that's an easy shot for a goalkeeper. Been good in the air in defence of Zimbabwe. Can they hold on for 10 final seconds? Shot comes in, appeals for a penalty, and it's given. Penalty kick, high drama. Agony for Zimbabwe. And the protests are earning a yellow card. And I think he got the decision right. Madzongwe. Mane up against Mare. Mane, and it's there, 1-0. Mane seals the victory right at the death. Well, he went for broke, opted for pure power. Goalkeeper went the wrong way. It's a good delivery in. Lovely header, unmarked. Look at that, the goalkeeper was well beaten. This ball to Conte, controls well, gets the pull back, and there's the opening goal of the game. 1-0. Guinea, they've been so patient. And Sela, the man who breaks the deadlock. Keita, lovely ball in. Conte, great work with the assist. And how about that for an opportune strike by Isiaga Sela? Just stuck his right boot out, and that was enough to do the damage. 1-0. Guinea are up and running. Guinea defence is pitched on the edge of the penalty area. That's enough, still a death, but what a shot. Brilliant shot by Mzaba.
In the other Ghana group game, Gabon also started with a 1-0 win over Comoros. It means that they have 3 points as well as Morocco. And these two teams are seated at the top. What it means is that a draw or a win for either of these two teams will qualify them to the next phase of the African Cup of Nations. The atmosphere might just be surrounding the African Cup of Nations, but there are other interesting stories in relation to tennis, as finally Novak Djokovic was... there was a court ruling yesterday after the visa scandal that had engulfed him a couple of days ago, and there were also some massive protests on the streets as he insisted that he was going to participate in the Australian Open. This is how we wrap up AM Sports with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. The show continues right after this.
Hello, my name is Evans Mensah, and you can relive all the fun and excitement on Top Story, Newsnight, and of course, Ghana Connect via podcast. All you need to do is to log on to my Joy Online/podcast. Search for your favorite show and relive the moment. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
One trafficker who is responsible for the presence of many of these children in Eluo Krom is Musa Kwabena. He says he entices the parents of these children to gain custody of them with the promise of exciting returns.
Oh,
okay. He has a network of traffickers in the northern part of Ghana, specifically Chereponi. They help him identify families with vulnerable children.
Okay.
Into Bibisa no send ya Oma 200 Ghana cedi. Police for no 200. In case omu say akola kan ho ade na obeka trom ana en meka 200 cedis na ode bema omu. Okay. Okay. Okay.
He told the investigative team he would charge 5,000 Ghana cedis to traffic at least 10 children for us. Our cover story was that we needed children to work on cocoa farms urgently. He revealed one of the approaches he adopts to outwit the security officers is to forge the national identity of these children.
25,000 in Colorado does now bit me diaba.
Okay, in Colorado, I said, yeah, look, say, also say, Mount Wisdom, say, be a met man by 6 or 7. But maybe we can, son, or more crown one, about 7. I say, Mutu, Nangamaka, Mutuka, but in Colorado, what you count.
These costs increase the number of years these children spent working on cocoa farms at Electoral. Rashida was trafficked from Chereponi by Musa. She was in class 6 at a basic school in Chereponi.
I have a few when I'm buying the first man and Papa will for me and 4 years.
Working long hours is not new to Rashida. She says she has served 4 years already under her old master. She was just 11. She is now serving for 1,000 Ghana cedis, which will be paid to her parents. There is no intention of her master sending her to school.
And that is the real situation. But did you know that across the world, almost 1 in 10 children is involved in child labor? Since the year 2000 till now, we've reduced that number by about 94 million, but we're still not making the right inroads. In recent years, we've been falling back, and Ghana is also on the map. Well, joining us for this all-important conversation we're about to have, Bright Appiah, he's Executive Director, Child Rights International. We also have Ahmed Awal Kariyama, Executive Director, Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment, that is RISE Ghana, as well as Kwesi Johnson, Executive Director, Friends of the Nation. Let me, gentlemen, let me just say a very good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining. If you can unmute so we can hear all of you. So just a quick sound check to ensure all of you are here with me. Bright, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Ahmed, good morning.
Yes, loud and clear. Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, and let's move on to Kwesi. Hello, Kwesi, can you hear me? All right, so Kwesi will join us shortly. Let me start with you, Bright. And we've heard from Fifi Boafo, Director of Public Affairs at COCOBOD, and he is saying that neither government nor their outfit is going to let this slide. They're going to take it up, and they're going to go heavy on child labor. But the statistics I just read, this is not a phenomenon left to Ghana alone. It affects different countries across the world. Is our situation that dire, would you say?
Well, in Ghana, there have been a lot of effort in reducing child labor. In 2015, the child labor rate was almost around 48%. But based on the data that we've collected in 2021, which we will soon launch the report, the child labor situation is around 22% now. We are hoping that the various interventions that is going on under the sustainability program of the different partners that are buying cocoa from Ghana will see further reduction in child labor situation. So we are hoping that these interventions will provide some level of support in terms of the way and manner we have to deal with this particular issue. I personally feel that in dealing with this, we need to have a structure in handling some of these things because the issues of trafficking, if you look at the various indicators that comes out in terms of what you qualify to be trafficking issue, is a bit deep and very complex. So the calculation of it is very, very important. And this is what stakeholders like Cocoa Board, the Ministry of Employment, and any other institution that is working in relation to dealing with child labor must have a full understanding of it, so that when we are practicalizing it, we know that Ghana is taking certain steps to be able to do with that. I listened to Cocoa Board yesterday on some of the steps that they are taking, especially the arrest. But from my perspective as a social worker, we have worked in over 1,000 plus communities in the cocoa grain community, including Electoral. So I understand the dynamics that pertains there. And we have collected data in the over 1,000 communities. So there's a clear understanding of the situation that pertains in the cocoa sector, and then what partners are doing to also bring some of these things under control. And where it matters the most, if you need a police to be involved, we have to involve them. So I feel that the clear picture that needs to be painted by Cocoa Board wasn't so clear yesterday, only on the arrest. And arrest is just a minute part of the whole trafficking issue.
Because it's a chain, it's a long chain. And we know that traffickers are very, they are very calculated in their approach, in what they do. If you listened to some of what one of the traffickers said, it tells you that, for example, even targeting families that have vulnerable children, you see how calculated they are.
Exactly. So just to lay emphasis on arrest is not even enough to describe the effort that you've put in. But it's a supply chain activity. So you need to also have a clear understanding of how the dynamics are to be able to even do the arrest, because the arrest alone do not stop the perpetrators of this act. Because if you listen to the documentary, clearly at a certain point, they even involve the police to be able to execute the agenda. Right. So you cannot just say that I have caused arrest and that ends it. But the emphasis should be placed on a sustainability program that are going on and the effort that are being made to rescue some of these children, and the things that the ministry and other cocoa buying companies are doing in these various communities. Then we'll have a clear and a full understanding of the situation and how to deal with it. But if we even want to lay emphasis on trafficking, you will know that those who are involved in this kind of act are not only targeting the cocoa sector, but it is a business for them. Once you want a child to be engaged in any kind of activity at all, they are available to provide it based on your specific needs. Right. So if you go there to tell them that you want a child to work in the cocoa farm, they are there to provide, not necessarily because they think that they are bringing the children to work in the cocoa farm. All that they are doing is that they are exchanging the child for any kind of work that they want to engage the child in. So that some of these must be clearly have a foundation for us to be able to understand it. But I can tell you that hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we will launch the Ghana Child Labor Monitoring and a remediation report. Then you have a clear understanding of this. But let me seriously commend Joy FM for this documentary. And for me, this documentary brings about a lot of issues that state institutions must take careful look at in terms of the approaches that they use in dealing with child labor in our agricultural sector, and then the solution that they have to profess in terms of how they deal with some of these issues and all that. Again, it sent a signal to the media to also have a full understanding of the things that happens in that area. So I'm so happy that you brought out this documentary. And on the basis of this documentary, certain revelations and certain activities that are happening in the cocoa sector would also come to bear in terms of the effort that we are putting in to address this particular issue.
Well, Bright, this is what we do socially. This is what we stand for. And it's also a feather in the cap of my colleague Kwete Nate, West African Journalist of the Year. This is what we do. Ahmed, let me come to you now. And so some of the figures are very disturbing. When you look at the details from the United Nations, they talk about the fact that Africa is at the very top when it comes to child labor activities, trafficking and all of that, both in percentage And in actual numbers, we are looking at about 72 million in Africa. And this is 2021 data. And we are looking at about, a fifth of the total numbers across the world. In the rural areas that you visit, have you had any scrapes with child labor? What form and why do you feel Africa is at the very top and Ghana is inclusive in terms of this? What are the experiences you can share and why do you feel we are not making the sort of inroads we would have wanted?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this important matter. And let me use the opportunity to say good morning to your viewers as well as listeners. There are several forms of child labor issues that we come across in the respective communities that we visit. Unfortunately, the matter, like Bright indicated, takes many different forms and it's complex. So that is why some of us believe that we need to put it with a context-specific understanding and analysis to better respond effectively to the specific situations. There are instances where, like the Chokosi concept, people are actually giving out to work to pay off the debt of their parents. So it's also a form of trafficking of children, in that the child is innocent, the parents owe some money, and they are asked to release their children to go and do work to pay for that. And you took the wind out of my sail when you mentioned the fact that it's a value chain thing. So we need to look at it as a value chain approach. And with the value chain approach, we look at the various actors, what are their motivations, what drives them. For instance, one of the key aspects is beyond this arrest, the enforcement and the ecosystem of the law that protects the child. We have our child protection policies beautiful in the place. We have child panels that are supposed to be functional at the legislative assembly level. Most of these things are not functional. And then there are issues of conflict and vulnerabilities in terms of economic aspect. People's livelihoods in terms of productivity at the agriculture level. That's the mainstay of most rural folk. So when the agriculture systems are not working well, they're not getting the feedback and the results from the agriculture they are engaged in, then chances are that they want to even prioritize what do we do with our children. So the moment somebody comes into the picture and exploit this vulnerability, then you see that the parents are willing to release the children. We have seen where children are involved in not just the cocoa sector, but mining and other dangerous and hazardous work. So child labor comes in many forms and depending on the context of the communities. And I must say that when you look at the Kulgungu area, the distance between Kulgungu and the Sefuwe, so where we are talking about this, is over a 700-kilometer distance. And Kulgungu is a border town. So there are chances that some of these children are actually migrant children who are kidnapped from across the country and brought into the country. When you go to places like Boko, you find children from neighboring Burkina Faso and Togo who have ostensibly come to study. And some of these children have been used to commit crimes. Some of these children have been used to pick intelligence in terms of armed robbery and others. So it goes beyond the child labor and the risk of it. And if we don't look at it clearly, it's a panacea for disrupting our security system because these children are innocent children and they can be misled. There are instances where thieves have used children to spy on people. Thieves have used children to burn houses and other properties of people. So the situation is complex and we need to look at it as a value chain approach. Also, the other thing we are proposing is that the private sector, for instance, and the Ghana Cocoa Board should look at a form of league table. We have a district league table that assesses the development standards of the district. Can we have ethical standards table for all the actors in the cocoa sector so that we don't have to make this an international affair? The Ghana Cocoa Board should be able to put in measures to ensure that all the actors are holding strongly some ethical practices and ensuring that I will not buy cocoa from you once you are engaged in any practice of child labor. And then also, we must not rush to arrest these people and then before breaking the cell. The gentleman who operates and says that he can supply so many children, he has other collaborators. Then if we rush already and we announce that they have been arrested, then these people are likely to coil back and then we're not able to trace and without accurate diagnosis of the problem, it will linger again, only die off for a period of time, and it will come back again. And then also,
is that to say, Ahmed, very quickly, that the stance of Cocoa Board right now leaves a lot to be desired? I mean, yes, arresting, but do you agree then with what Brighter Pia is saying, that we need to put in place a lot more measures to curb this practice?
Yes, because clearly so. Beyond arrests, if you arrest people, the medical practitioners will tell you that accurate diagnosis is half the cure. If you arrest the perpetrator, that's just one perpetrator. He operates with a lot of people and other people. How do we even address the vulnerability of the parents that exposes the children to this situation? Parents are supplying children because they feel that that is the best interest of the child. Unfortunately, it is not. So that's why we have innovative programs from NGOs like Grameen, where they are working in cocoa communities to promote financial inclusion. When you do this and you provide parents like a Momo, a parent becomes a Momo agent, a community volunteer becomes a Momo agent, then they are able to intercept information about child trafficking. They are able to campaign against it. One, a lot of people are not aware of the penal measures, the penal code associated with child trafficking and human trafficking. We need to let more people to get to know this. So the Cocoa Board should have an expanded program beyond just arrests, so that they would look at who are the actors in the various value chain. The police was complicit in this matter, they mentioned. Other actors are there, the parents, the demand and supply. And unfortunately, there is demand and supply. Once there is demand at the cocoa farming communities for this service, for these services of children, somebody will be willing to fill in that gap of the demand. So we need to identify all these actors. What are their motivations? How do we stop them from doing the practice? And so the Cocoa Board must go beyond, engage broadly with other stakeholders, and take the views of people, understand the dynamics of the communities. There's no simple way of addressing this problem. Each community is unique, and the forms of child labor and child trafficking vary across countries. And then also there are places where the mainstay of the...
We appear to have a bit of a connection break there. Can you hear me, Ahmed? I think you... Yes, good. Go ahead with your point.
Yes, so I'm saying that there are communities where they are agrarian, and there's just one season. So beyond that one agriculture season, there's a hunger gap. And within that hunger gap, anything that they will do to feed the family. And unfortunately, most of these families have large families. So they may feel that, well, if I want to release a child to work temporarily, because that's the understanding they usually have, that the child is going to work for a short period to support household income. And here, the person is vulnerable, the food security, the family is food insecure, the person is not able to provide for their daily needs and other social needs that they will have. So therefore, they see the child as an immediate tool for increasing their income and coping with the hunger gap. So if we're approaching this problem, we need to understand these dynamics and respond to some of these things so that vulnerable families, for instance, can have access as a stopgap measure so that the push factor that motivates them to be able to engage in these practices is addressed. So it's complex. And the Cocoa Board must take it up. The Ministry of Gender and Social Protection must come inside. The media, like you are doing, is wonderful. And all other stakeholders, we need to all put our acts together to be able to nip this canker in the bud.
Well, complex it is indeed. And, I've just been thinking, though, coming to you, Kwesi, if JoyNews had not come out with this hotline documentary, it's reminiscent of what we saw, what we found on the Volta Lake some time back, reminiscent of other things we've seen in respect of child labor activities, which the law frowns upon, but they are still happening, and sometimes it begs belief. Now, if we hadn't done this, who would have been focusing on this all-important matter? When you look at the data, and I'll have us take a look at some of them. It will be on your screens as well. But I just wanted to run this by you before I pose a question to you. Children between 5 and 14 years engaged in the economic activity, 5 and 14 years. We have a total number of 229,628. That's no mean number. When you look at the gender mix, boys versus girls, usually what you would see, and this is what we have, 130,478 for the boys and 99,154 the girls, just a little shy of 100,000. And this is data from the Ghana Statistical Service. When you look at, Kwesi, when you look at the numbers of children in our country per the recent census, and you look at how many we have involved in child labor, how much of a concern is it for you? And Friends of the Nation, how much have you done in particular respect of this situation? Kwesi, if you can hear me, can you unmute? Is Kwesi with us? Okay, so I cannot hear from Kwesi. If you can hear me, please unmute. If not, I'll come back to you. But Bright, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, it's good you can. Now, how do you react to these numbers? I mean, are they shocking? Are they extraordinary? Or are we just... maybe we don't know the actual numbers, which is a very high possibility. We don't know the actual numbers. How do you appreciate these numbers?
Well, the measurement of children engaged in economic activities do not necessarily mean that they are gaining from those activities. And it doesn't give a clear picture of what the situation is in terms of whether or not they are involved in child labor, by just a description to describe the number of children that are involved in economic activities. And I think that even if you expand it from 5 to 17, you get a huge number in terms of our children who are engaged in economic activities. And in measuring that, it is on the basis of the economic activity that you are able to measure whether or not the child is involved in child labor, and whether the activity that the child is involved in is hazardous or is a worse form of child labor. So they have given us a clear picture. But if you look at the age range that they use in calculating that, in our legislations, a child who falls between 5 and 14 are limited in terms of the work that they have to do. So from 13 up to 14, it means that a child can be engaged in light work. So that figure can also describe a situation where a child will be involved in economic activities, but do not necessarily amount to child labor activities. But it should give the state a sense that if you have a majority of your children or a percentage of your children at that age, where by law we expect them to be in school, we expect them to be under training, we expect them to learn, and they are involved in economic activities, that is taking away a time from what they need to invest in terms of all these indicators, then they stand to reason that we need to give a different approach in terms of how we want to handle issues that relates to our children. So if light work, so the question now is that, is there certain activities that amount to economic activity within the light work? And whether if it is economic activity, is somebody benefiting from that economic activity? Then we'll be able to have a clear understanding of what the situation is. But the picture is so clear that if you have a certain number of children engaged in economic activity, then it means that the time that they are using to engage in those activities, taking something from the classroom, is taking something from their learning periods and all that. So it is for us as a state to be able to come back to look at how best we can also shape some of these things so that we can reduce the number of children who are involved in economic activities.
It's interesting you brought this up because according to the Ghana Children's Act of 1998, the minimum age for children, for the admission of children who into employment is 15. However, 15. Like you mentioned, they may be employed at the age of 13 for light work. And the minimum age for engagement of persons in hazardous work is 18, at which point they know exactly what they are getting into. So obviously, if we have some of these ones below 18 who are engaging in mining activities and all of that, all of these factor into the breaches of the law when it comes to children in labor, because they shouldn't be doing such dangerous work.
They should not even be there at all. That is why it is important that we look at also the dynamic that exists and the kind of system that we can provide. So, for instance, when you go to the rural communities, you will see that sometimes even parents find it difficult to leave their children behind when they are going to the farm. And if they go with their children, even the presence of the child alone, where certain activities take place, become hazardous to the child, even though the child is not involved in the activity itself. So there's a whole lot of a social protection system that we need to establish, so that when we are rolling it out, we would do it in such a way that it's very systematic and it follows a certain social protection safety net, so that all these things can come to bear. So that is why I am so particular about the issue of the sustainability program that are going on, because buying companies have invested a huge sums of money when it comes to cleaning the cocoa sector, so that the quality of our cocoa will be appreciated globally. So these are things that we expect that they would also highlight. Because, for instance, in 2015, the enrollment rate of children in the cocoa growing community was about 89%. But as we speak now, it's around 97%, which is very encouraging. And you see one of the things that for me should bring us to we having the understanding of what is happening is that the income levels of cocoa farmers, it is an average of 1,200 Ghana cedis every month, which also suggests that if we put in certain mechanisms and we address issues of attitudes, the farmers will have capacity to deal with their own farms without necessarily engaging children. And this will require a certain robust system where all these farmers will recognize that the state is so much interested in the welfare of children, therefore, they are communicating it to us, or they are, as my brother said, certain league table for them, so that when you engage your child in this kind of act, this will be the punishment that goes with it, but not necessarily in terms of enforcing a pure criminal concept within a social protection issues and all that. And even if you want to enforce a criminal concept in it, you also need to attach the remediation aspect in terms of how you put the family in a system where they will not go back to do some of these things again. So I feel that the situation is there, right. Steps are being taken, but let's lay more emphasis on the sustainability program that are going on within the cocoa sector.
So let's talk about that sustainability. I'm coming to you now, Ahmed. And Bright has spoken about social protection. And it is clear when you look at the documentary, children in cocoa labor, you would realize that it's a bread and butter issue. It's a poverty issue. Else, why would families be willing to give out children just to earn something little? As you've gone round with your rural initiatives, you have indeed come across some of these. What else do you feel we should be looking at in terms of protecting these communities? What can we do? We have our empowerment programs. It appears they are not working against this. We have LEAP. It doesn't seem to be faring well against this. So what exactly, when it comes to self-empowerment, do you feel should be done by the overarching body, which is government, to ensure that we can at least halve or maybe do better when it comes to the numbers we are seeing?
Yes, so first of all, the referral mechanisms for adjudicating cases or providing redress for child protection are weak, few and far between. So we need to look at strengthening and increasing the availability and accessibility to redress mechanisms and institutions. I'm talking about the fact that when you look at those domestic victims and violence support units, they are located in only 4 out of the 15 districts we have in the Upper East region. We have fewer of those offices where issues of domestic violence, which sometimes child protection issues are there. So they are not able to respond. We talk about legal aid, where parents and other people who want to pursue cases of children engaged in trafficking may want to pursue. They are not accessible to the people. We need to look at strengthening these institutions and making them visible at the community level. At the district assembly level, we have a Justice and Security Committee, and then also the district assembly has a mandate to set up and make sure that child panels are very functional. And with these child panels, they meet regularly, ideally, to look at the situation of children, the challenges that they have for the specific districts. Unfortunately, not much attention. The political will to support these child panels has not been there. The necessary funding has not been there. So I think that civil society needs to mobilize around some of the local governance acts and systems like the child panels so that we can support the various district assemblies to empanel these child panels and make sure that they allocate money from the medium-term development plans and annual budgets and annual action plans for specific activities aimed at reducing child labor. That's the only way we can address context-specific issues, because then if the District Assembly is the one leading the process, then they are speaking specifically to the context that affects them directly. And then also we need to look at a strong private sector action there, so that, the laws are there, but to some extent they don't bite. And once the law don't bite, if there's a higher motivation, that's why I mentioned about the ethical standards league table for actors. And then also a strong measure, like that police officer who was involved in that. How do we ensure that we strategically litigate, petition the necessary authorities within the police hierarchy to ensure that people like that are removed from the system? So that, and also awareness about child protection. In fact, our laws as it is, children of a certain age are not supposed to travel unaccompanied. So we have an association in Upper East, a network of civil society against child trafficking and human trafficking in the Upper East region. We have had on countless occasions impounded buses with the collaboration of the GPRTU and the Ghana Police Service in the Upper East region. Bus loads of children being loaded, a full bus of 45 children being loaded with just 2 adults, and they're going to the southern part of Ghana to work. And these are initiatives that we take. We cannot be everywhere. There is a mandated state institution, that is the police, that's the Department of Social Welfare, that is our court. We need to have these people functioning and visible across all areas, so that when cases are also reported and children are in conflict with the law or in contact with the law, then it's adjudicated in a speedy manner. Once cases delay, people may resort to other means. So we need to strengthen and expedite action in terms of handling and providing redress to victims. In fact, there are parents whose children are stolen. They don't voluntarily release the children. The children are stolen and trafficked.
Right.
So some of those parents want to seek redress, but the system doesn't seem to allow them because it's cumbersome, it takes long, it's expensive, and so the person may just want to give up. And then also, some of our traditional authorities and state institutions meddle in these affairs. We all know that we are a community, and so we know each other, we want to protect each other. But unfortunately, when it comes to children, that communal spirit seems to be missing. And then we are protecting the perpetrator and leaving the victim. We need to look at that system also.
Ahmed, very, very quickly on this one, very brief take on it. So do you feel that a lot of the time in addressing this huge problem, we like employing knee-jerk reactions, and COCOBOD has stepped in. In fact, when this documentary was put out there, I followed some of the discourse on social media, and I realized that there was a bit of a thread. Some people were saying, this is not new, it's been going on, it's not that our authorities don't know them, it's not that the cocoa producing community doesn't know it, but we all keep quiet about it. How much of a knee-jerk reaction is it, this reaction from COCOBOD, and what more do you feel they should be doing specifically on this issue, because now it is them, they are the ones in the spotlight?
Yeah, so I was just thinking aloud, and you asked this question. I don't know whether the COCOBOD as a child protection officer or an officer for ensuring some of the ethical standards and compliance. I think that going forward, I know they have a lot of field officers who collect and study the market intelligence around cocoa. This should not be limited to the market intelligence. I think going forward, the officers should be able to collect some intelligence around the trend of child trafficking and the engagement of children in this beautiful economy of ours in terms of the cocoa sector, so that they can appropriately inform the authorities at the COCOBOD. And I say yes, perfectly, it's the knee-jerk reaction. We don't want it to be like a 9-day wonder where we come and talk about it again and it goes off again. And like people said on social media, this is rife, it's common. And I dare say that the numbers that we are seeing are actually a tip of the iceberg. Ghana, unfortunately, we tend not to get our data right most of the times. And so the numbers that we are seeing and generally encompasses other forms of work like Bright indicated. And beyond that, we need to pay attention to the fact that there are other aspects of child labor and other numbers that are hidden that has not been brought to the limelight. And so you realize that based on this documentary alone, this hotline by JoyNews, that a multi-stakeholder approach is required beyond the state infrastructure architecture. We need private sector, we need the media, so that we can put this on the agenda of the relevant ministries and agencies. And we need to hold them accountable in terms of exercising their mandate around child protection. What is the Ministry of Gender doing? They should give us a clear plan in terms of addressing this. But I must admit that there has been some initiatives to work around, especially children engaged in hard labor and other forms of work within the cocoa sector and other sectors. But we need an expanded and a more holistic social protection plan and a child protection agenda that encompasses and addresses the root cause of the drivers of these actions. Without that, we will only be responding to situations as and when they happen. And I implore them to go on the ground and break the cell. They should use a value chain approach. Who are the actors? Where are they located? What are their motivations? For instance, as we speak today, there is a conflict in Boko, and a lot of the Lungu area is affected. People from that area are not able to move about freely into and out of. I've had complaints of farmers whose vegetables are rotten because they're not able to access the market center. So these people have children. And once they are vulnerable, somebody can exploit the vulnerability of these people, be able to traffic their children, as well as engage their children in other hazardous form of work. And in fact, there are instances where children have been involved in some, not just hazardous work, but aspect of violence, extremism, and violent conflict. So we need a holistic approach.
Right. Let's go back to the question of, social protection, child protection. It's not that we're doing nothing. I know UNICEF, for example, has been collaborating with the Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection. But the question is whether we are doing enough. When you look at SDG 8.7 to be specific, it talks about taking immediate and effective measures to eradicate forced labor, end modern slavery and human trafficking, and secure the prohibition and elimination of the worst forms of child labor, including recruitment and use of child soldiers, and by 2025, end child labor in all forms. Now, in asking whether we are doing enough from the standpoint of government, the ministry, those in charge, the United States that we see to be some beacon of improvement when it comes to these things, rights. Just a century ago, they were in similar straits, and on the back of poverty, on the back of lax child protection measures. So what more should we be doing? We have an agenda that by 2025, we should be attaining certain gains. Are we on course? And what more would you like to see from establishment? Is Bright with us?
Okay. All right. Based on the data that we have so far, it clearly shows that we're working towards achieving the agenda, but as to whether we'll be able to fully achieve it is another matter altogether. Because we are seeing the reductions in terms of children participating in the cocoa sector in the rural communities. We have seen an increase in terms of school enrollment. We have also seen some gradual increase in terms of the income levels of farmers, and then also facilities that are available for cocoa farmers in the cocoa sector. And then also what the buying companies are doing. I know one particular buying company has built about 13, constructed 13 schools in the rural communities and all that. So these are some basic measurements that we can use to see whether we'll be able to do that. And based on the global standard, at a point, a child took Cote d'Ivoire to court, to the U.S. Supreme Court, where there was a ruling. So it compels, there's some kind of compliance that has been developed by the law to ensure that anybody who buys cocoa from Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana must comply with certain indicators to be able to say that the cocoa is child labor free. And on the basis of that, which I find it a bit difficult that our social protection safety net is not even talking about it, that in 2018, 2016, 2017, 18, thereabout, government of Ghana developed what we call the Ghana Child Labor Monitoring System, which is more comprehensive in terms of recognizing all the structures that deals with issues of social protection, and how best we can also achieve results collectively. And this system has been there for a while now, and it's yielding a certain result because most of the buying companies that are using that system are getting results, and then there are data to show the kind of achievement that they are doing. So that is what we expect that government would also do in terms of the thing that they have to do, especially when it comes to Cocoa Board. We expect that Cocoa Board must ensure that there is a compliance, because at the end of the day, they have to buy the things. And when it comes to the hardware aspect, we expect that our social protection system will deal with it. The Department of Children, Social Welfare, and then also the labor unit would also deal with those aspects. So we, at the government level, one of the basic things that for me is a problem has to do with how they will streamline the functions of the various social protection institutions in this country. Because you see Cocoa Board at a point directly involved in addressing child labor issues that for me, I feel that they don't have capacity to do that, because we have a labor unit that can provide those roles. You also see the social welfare not also linking issues of the LEAP to some of these vulnerable groups and all that. So there must be a straight realignment of roles and responsibilities so that people will know where their work ends, and then the professional would also come in to address specific issues and all that. The trafficking unit of the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, what can we do? What is their role when it comes to trafficking? Social welfare, what is their role when it comes to the state of children in the cocoa farms? The labor unit, how do they provide regulation to ensure that individuals that are using children, or companies or institutions that are using children to work, what are the standards that they are setting for them? So that if all these institutions work, then you come to the level where we would establish the value chain system, where everybody is working to ensure that at every step, we are doing things that would also be in the best interest of children. So there is a break in our social protection system. For that matter, it has made the safety net so weak that anybody at all can participate in that process. So especially when it comes to the state institutions, it's a very serious issue, because you expect that trafficking issues are purely criminal. So when you are implementing or enforcing traffic rules, you cannot do away with the police. But here is the case: you are seeing a police officer involved in an act, the very act that is supposed to protect children for. So you see that there is a break when it comes to protecting children. You would also see that there are issues where children are trafficked and then we cannot even get accommodation for them. This comes back to the social welfare, how they are having facilities to be able to deal with some of these issues, so that they can carry out the social inquiry report on the families and be able to come out with the solutions that are tailor-made to address the specific issues and all that. So until we have a system that addresses some of these things, then we'll just be doing the knee-jerk approach where we hear it, we go and cause arrest. And I can tell you, if the system do not handle the 8 people that have been arrested, they will not be able to get enough evidence to prosecute them. And for that, I can tell, because I participated in this space, and I know how the trafficking issues go about, and the hardcore evidence that the state needs to be able to prosecute some of these people and all that. So let's be clear in terms of what we want as a state. But I will lay emphasis on the fact that government must pay attention to the Ghana Child Labor Monitoring System, and then also the Child Labor Free Zones document that they have developed, vis-a-vis using the child policies that we have developed in this country in order to address this particular issue.
Okay, so before I take your concluding comments, maybe in 30 seconds each, I'd just like us to take a look at this rural-urban breakdown of the figures, and it makes for interesting reading. When you look at the statistics in the urban areas, when it comes to those involved in plant and machine operation and assembly, you look at about 1%, elementary occupations, about 12% of children involved, and that is those between the ages of 5 and 14, the segregation. Then you look at those involved in craft and trade, that's about 23%. You get to service and sales workers, 25%, and agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. That's 39%. But you see the major difference when you look at the rural communities, because those in skilled agricultural, forestry, and fishery work is 85%. Of course, you would imagine that a lot of them are involved in farming themselves. Then you would come to other bits when it comes to the plant operation. That is just about 0.4%, so a decrease from those in the urban areas. For the service and sales workers, 4.1%, 3.5% for the craft and related trade workers, and that is the total number. So it is clear that if we put in place certain measures, we're going to be able to get rid of this situation, addressing the core challenges in the urban and rural areas. To both of you, 30 seconds to give your final comments, and then we'll draw the curtains on this conversation. I'll start with you, Ahmed.
Yes, so thank you very much. I think that we need to look at professing the appropriate charges for culprits. If you look at the Saboba boat incident where children capsized, the charge was manslaughter. Okay, so we need to look at the appropriate charges for perpetrators. And then we need to move fast in terms of adjudication so that the necessary cases can be put to rest. And then also the way we handle children who are victims, as well as children who are in conflict with the law. We need to look at that and improve it. So we need all actors acting on board and supporting each other so that we can create a stronger ecosystem for child protection in Ghana. Thank you.
Bright?
Yes, let me appreciate the work that you've done, and then also put to our listeners that all of us must be involved in this kind of activity to be able to rescue our children. And very soon, let me use this time to also say that very soon we'll be launching the Ghana Child Labor Monitoring and Remediation Report, which would highlight some of the things that are happening. And then as a state, we need to also have interest in how we want to protect our children. Once we are able to do that, we can get rid of some of these miscreants who are taking advantage of our children.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Ahmed Awal Kariama, Executive Director, Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment, that is RISE Ghana, and of course, Bright Apia, Executive Director, Child Rights International. We still stay with the big stories, and up next we're bringing another big one when it comes to the UTAG situation. That is up next as we talk about the NLC's latest, intervention. How is that going to pan out tomorrow when that meeting, slated for 2:30, takes place? Stay with us as we bring you the details.
Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
We continue with our big stories now, and the focus is UTAG, the University Teachers Association of Ghana. The latest we have is a statement or a release from the National Labour Commission inviting the affected groups into a meeting tomorrow at 2:30. Joining us for that conversation, Dr. Samuel Bert Bwedi Kusi. He is UCC UTAG president. So we're going to take a brief look at that statement and what it says. And it basically says, let me just get to the details of that. It says very quickly, and strike action by University Teachers Association of Ghana. And here are the details for you. It talks about, we refer to a news item on myjoyonline.com and a letter from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, both dated the 10th of January 2022, indicating that members of the University Teachers Association of Ghana have instituted strike action effective 10th January 2022 over an alleged delay by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to release the report of the Labour Market Survey. UTAG should have complied with Section 159 of Act 651, where the Commission would be served the required notice to enable it to intervene immediately. This notwithstanding, the Commission, in line with its mandate under Section 138 of Act 651, and also in exercise of its powers under Section 139 of Act 651, writes to invite the disputing parties to appear before the National Labour Commission on Wednesday, the 12th of January 2022 at 2:30 for a hearing of the issue in dispute. The parties are urged to take note of the time and date and appear as scheduled. In view of the COVID-19 protocols, the representation by each side is restricted to a maximum of 2 persons, and this must also be noted. Parties must endeavour to attend. It's signed, of course, by Bernice A. Wilbeck, Dr. Mrs. Director, Administration or HR for the Executive Secretary. Let me just run this by you very quickly, Dr. Bwedi Kusi. And it's also captured or encapsulated in a story in the Finder newspaper this morning, where it's being suggested that UTAG is being unfair on the back of the fact that you are kind of in breach of signed agreements. How do you respond? Because even the NLC in its statement is saying that you had mechanisms to follow. You didn't follow those mechanisms. Why?
Very much, my brother, and good morning to your cherished listeners. Let me set the record straight. The NLC attempts to indicate that, or purport to say that we are on strike because of a delay in releasing a labor market survey. That is incorrect. We are not on strike because of a delay in release of labor market survey. At the time we were signing up the negotiations in August, after we had suspended our strike, we were clear in our minds. The employer had indicated that by October they were going to be done with the labor market survey. We, out of our generosity, indicated that, look, it was a tight line. So take an extra 3 months out to get to December, by which time we expect that you would have finished all the technicalities that are involved, so that at least we will know whether a penny or a peswa is being added to what we are currently being paid or otherwise. Now, that did not happen until there was this threat of strike, when on the 5th of January, that is this year, the report was released. And in our communique, we had indicated to the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, a letter we had written to them earlier in November, that give us a copy so that we can have an informed decision and know our next line of action. This did not happen. Let's bear in mind that the white paper based on which this labor market survey is being done to be able to either review or otherwise to determine critically skilled people and be able to determine an appropriate premium for them. This was the white paper was in 2013, and even in this same white paper, it said that the premium will be reviewed from time to time. One labor market survey was done in 2014, nothing was implemented. One has been done in 2019, and the report is now being released in 2022. So to create the impression that we are on strike because of delay in a report, for me, that is neither here nor there, and that is not it. We are saying that.
Is UTAG being fair in this situation? You can speak of the 2013 to 2021 or 2022 trajectory, but you wouldn't be alone in there. I could mention, or some people would say they could mention, a host of institutions or groupings who have also gone through hurdle upon hurdle and have not even, on the back of single spine, have not got what they deserve. Your group is not unique. So the question has been asked as well. Are you being fair, especially as the NLC is saying all it needs is time to arbitrate some of these matters so that moving forward, the employer can also let you know what can be done to mitigate the situation? Are you being fair by still laying your tools down?
Thank you very much. The question of fairness is determined by who? The question is that if an employee A is not complaining and I feel that my condition is worse off and I am complaining, who determines what is fair? Right. And we have been at this. It's not just a matter that is coming up today or coming from the sky, coming from nowhere. We have been at this, and we all signed on to these timelines. A lot of the things that we signed on, have they been fulfilled? So the question of fairness is neither here nor there. But just to also address the issue of the NLC saying that we did not comply, we disagree with them. Because you see, NLC is here. They are in this country, and they know the letters we have written. They know the issues we have stated. They themselves locked their offices from the 20th to the 20th of December to the 10th of January. Instructed their security not to accept any letter. We emailed our letters to them. We did a post to them. So for them to come back and say that we did not follow, we disagree. In any case, we suspended an industrial action, and it's a resumption. So, well, I mean, we'll leave that to the legal brains to deal with. But we disagree that we have breached any procedure. We have not.
Right. There's also the case captured in the Daily Graphic, actually, where students in public universities across the country have been, talking about what this could have in terms of ramifications on their studies, on their academic work. I mean, it goes without saying, I don't have to lecture you on this. You probably would lecture me on what the consequences would be for the student body. They are pleading with UTAG to, reverse your decision. How do you react?
Legitimately so. I agree with them. Yes, the consequences will be there. And as I have always said that it is not in our interest. I, as a lecturer, it is not in my interest to be on strike. On any day, any time, if I have better options, I would stick to that rather than, going on a strike. Because at the end of the day, I have said that it's a deferred work. When we resume, I will have to do the very same work which we have deferred, right? But we have been at this before. We listened. We suspended the strike. We came back to teach, and in the midst of COVID, the students went home. Did the employer also attack the agency that they needed to have done, attached to the things that were on the table? The question is no. So yes, these pleas are legitimate, right. But at the same time, the employer must also attach some level of seriousness to some of these things that we are talking about, so that we do not continue to come back to this same point over and over again. It's just been just about 6 months, and we are here again. So when we sit at the table and talk about issues, we should attach all the level of seriousness that it deserves, so that nobody enjoys going on strike. No, not at all. But we cannot continue to look on when our conditions are getting worse off, and people are retiring on meager conditions, and we sit on and see that, look, because students are going to suffer and all that, we should continue to suffer. I think that argument cannot be made.
Right. This just came to mind. I was going to ask about your participation in tomorrow's meeting, but do you have any statistics, for example, on how many lecturers, how many of your colleagues, maybe yearly, would be departing on the back of poor conditions of service or the paltry sums that you keep saying you get? Do you have any idea or any statistics you can share with us about this bit of brain drain? Do you have anything to share on that?
Oh, well, I do not have the figures currently, but of course, it's not a secret that a number of our colleagues leave the service for greener pastures. A number of them leave to the private sector and all that. It's a common knowledge, because and again, we are even unable to retain. To attract most of the young people we have trained. Why? Because they compare salaries and like, no, I don't think I want to be in there. I would rather go into the private sector where I can. How can you go to school for all these years to get a PhD, and then you come back and your take home a month is roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of between 3,000 and 5,000? What kind of system is that? So the point is that we can interrogate these figures. We can make them available. We have a workforce. Roughly, the UTAG workforce is roughly around a little over 5,000. But so if we think that if the employer wants to pay a critical attention to this workforce, it should be able to do it.
Are you going to be in attendance at tomorrow's meeting? And I'm not speaking specifically of you as a person. The NLC, on the back of COVID-19 protocols, has said that it's looking at 2 participants per association. I don't know whether you're going to present you have your national leadership there, or whether each of you is going to present representation. What's it going to be like tomorrow?
Yes, we have taken note of the invitation. We are talking to our legal experts on that. We will respond appropriately. But even that in this age and time, we don't talk about because of COVID-19 issues. People have vaccinated, and people are holding events. So why limit attendance to only 2? But
COVID is still with us. It's still, the numbers are still very high. Don't you think
we are not disputing that. I'm a health person. We are not disputing that. But I mean, we are attending events in larger numbers than 2. So what is it? What is so special about NLC invitation? I mean, we can do with more numbers than that. But I mean, as I said, we will honor the invitation. I'm not too sure whether tomorrow or any other day because of the way we are scattered. But it's important for us to add that yes, we have received the invitation. We'll talk to our legal brains, and it is our hope that we'll honor the invitation. We are respectable, but we are not ready to defy any state institution. We will honor in due course. Yes.
So what do you anticipate? What would you like to see tomorrow? What would you like to hear from the NLC as you get into this meeting tomorrow? What are some of the things you anticipate?
Honestly, we don't expect. I mean, the NLC has been at it. That is the game they play. I mean, we don't expect any outcome than they saying that. Call off your strike and go back to the negotiation table and all that. We don't expect anything different from that. But you see
So in other words, just to clarify, you don't expect much from tomorrow's confab. You think it's just going to be another pretentious act from the NLC. That's what you're saying.
I mean that is what we know, and I'm sure your guess is as good as mine. You wait till after the meeting, and you see exactly what the outcome will be, right? So the point is that I have heard. I mean, yesterday in the evening, I listened to the Fairwages boss. Talking about the fact that review of the labor market survey and review of the energy market premium is a prerogative of the government and all that. Yes, nobody is disputing that. But if it's a prerogative of the government and it's nothing to negotiate about, then what are you putting us to the table to go and do? Because we do not have any say. So if we do not have any say and we respect it and we accept, so you take your time and do whatever you want to do because you have the prerogative to do that. Allow us to also talk about the fact that our conditions have worsened and we need you to pay attention to it. So for us, we expect that. The employer and the authorities that will sound a bit more reconciliatory and see how best we can dialogue. But if we want to go the hardline talk, we only talk about entrenching positions, and nothing good will come out of this engagement.
So just to wrap, in other words, and this is just to get some clarity. In other words, from where you sit, from what you know, from what you've seen, tomorrow is not going to make any changes, and the strike is going to continue.
Well, I would want to leave that to the leadership, but I can say without any doubt that we're not expecting any meaningful outcome. And I use meaningful in quotes, not to disrespect anybody, but in terms of making a headway so far as this whole impasse is concerned, we are not expecting, because we know that NLC most likely will be at it again, just as they have started issuing statements and finding faults with even the processes that we have. That is what the game they have always played. They usually wait and find fault with every labor union that goes on strike. NLC will find fault with them. Meanwhile, they do not police the documents that are agreed to ensure that there is peace, to ensure that the employer also meets its part of the bargain. Now, it's about mind-boggling that NLC will always do that.
Again, you said something that teases my mind. Are you suggesting then that the NLC is a bit of a rubber stamp, that it's unduly influenced by the employer? Because government employs in the public sector, so many of you, it's not just teachers, so many other technocrats and all of that. Are you suggesting that the NLC is in bed, more or less, often with the employer, rather than also seeing eye to eye with you in the public sector?
Well, I wouldn't use the words you have used as a rubber stamp or in bed. Because I equally will not be happy if anybody from the other side would suggest that anybody is on this mission for some other gains. No. So, but I am raising issues with why the NLC will always go the tangent it does. And that is where I have issues. Yes, they are supposed to be an independent state institution and all that. But the question is that if at every point in time you find faults with anything that any union, any labor organization does in this country, then it's a cause for worry.
Doc, let's leave it here, and we wish you the very best tomorrow. Hopefully you hear something that you are not expecting, and maybe things are done that can bring the strike to an end. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Dr. Samuel Bert Bwedikusi speaking there. He is UCC UTAG president. We go on to our final big story for today, and it has to do with, well, our passion. Some people say they've lost that passion. It has to do with football and the Ghana Black Stars. Yesterday, they hit the ground, not running, because it was a very patchy start. It was a pale shadow of the team, and we lost by 1-0 to Morocco. We were pipped by the Moroccan team, which wasn't exactly good either. They weren't excellent, but we lost. We get into the details of what happened and what we should expect moving forward. We'll have a host of pundits joining the conversation, and we'll also activate the phone lines to ensure that you can have your say. All of that up next as we bring you our final big story.
All set then, ready for kickoff. It's Morocco kicking off in red and green, and kicking from left to right in this first half up against Ghana. Boufal then delivers hard, and it's just over the top from Saiss. Looked like it was on target in itself, that free kick. Barkok, Eintracht Frankfurt and El Kawabi for Hashaspor have tested positive for COVID. Ghana on the attack, but again, there's no support coming forward quickly enough. However, Morocco give it away, and the chances handled away there. The first real save in the game is needed. Jiku with the long ball forward. It was speculative, really, trying to use the pace there of Sulirama, who picked out his man. Agard made the clearance, back in by Paintsill, and that was heading for the top corner. And at the moment, I would say that the other two sides will not fear what they've seen. Chasno now! Oh, and there it is! The fear factor kicks in, and Sofiane Boufal gets the opener inside the last 8 minutes. Vahid Halilhodžić is thrilled. They celebrate together. And the Angers man snaps into action. Only the second goal he scored in his 23 international appearances for the Atlas Lions. A mistake in the Guyana defence setting up the chance, and he turned around like a flick knife to send that into the back of the net. Well, the kind of an assist goes with Zakaria Aboukal, but it was a defensive touch that fed it into the park. Achraf Hakimi takes a little glug of water as the free kick comes in, and another good chance. Tissoudali, number 28 in the middle of your screen. Well, he might have had a case. Good ball in by Boufal, right into the danger area. Oh, they're through again. Morocco twisting and turning, getting the chance. Good save by Wallacott. And in the end, do they really need to create one? They just need to keep the ball. Referee blows for full time here in Yaoundé.
It was a tough match. We were expecting a tough match. Morocco is one of the best teams in Africa, so it was opening match of the competition.
Mislim da su oni bili malo srećni, da su pobedili utakmicu, mi smo imali tu neke šanse koje su bile baš dobre, mi smo uspjeli da damo gol i kad sam mislio da je sve gotovo, neshvatljivo je kako smo primili gol.
We didn't use our chances today, and I think Morocco team was a little bit luckier in the end. When we were expecting that the game is coming to a close, you know, this happened, so
Ništa, čestitam Maroku. Ima dve utakmice, zadovoljan sam sa igračima, zadovoljan sam sa igrom. Imamo dve utakmice, tako da gledamo da prođemo grupu.
And I want to congratulate to the Morocco team for the victory.
And we're joined now by George Addo Jr., my brother. He finds himself in Cameroon, and he's been observing, he's been following exactly what has been happening. George, thank you for joining the conversation. Thank you for actually joining with us. So I mean, day one, and things haven't gone the way we planned. Not at all. What has the reaction been like in the Black Stars camp, from what you know?
Well, the Black Stars are very disappointed with the results, but they are pretty much used to not starting competitions very well for one or two of experienced boys in camp, and they've indicated that they are looking forward to winning the next game and trying to build on form there. If you looked at the narrative was just the fact that Morocco were the favorites going into this game. The Black Stars didn't have a team. They have not put together a team. They have not trained together for such a long time. You remember that all the North African teams had the benefit of the Arab Cup, the Arab FIFA Cup that took place in Qatar.
Right.
So they have been already preparing. So you would realize in this competition that the likes of Tunisia, the likes of Morocco, and Egypt, Algeria are all like miles ahead of the other teams, because whilst the other teams were complaining about we had our star men on January the 3rd, and that meant that just had 6 or 5 days to prepare, they had used Team B plus Team A in a very competitive, Arab Cup, the Qatar that took place in Qatar. So yes, Morocco were going to look better. Morocco were going to come out and play better than us. The disappointment is that we're very close to rescuing a point, or maybe a few minutes later, even close to scoring a goal from Joseph Pinsel. Right. When you put that in context, it's not far gone. And that's what the team is trying to do now. They're trying to look out for the positives and look up to the next game. That's what they're trying to do. Having said all of that, there were some pretty bad performances on the pitch.
Okay, so I concur with a lot of what you're saying. Yes, they would go through this entire process of trying to regroup and fare better in the second, that's their second outing. But here is where I have a bit of a problem. Yes, we always were underdogs going into the tournament, facing Morocco. But take away the fact that in the FIFA rankings, they are ranked above us. Take away all the other considerations and look at what happened on the pitch yesterday. They were nothing extraordinary. There was nothing extraordinary about the Moroccan team. They were very ordinary. And if we had just a little pep, we could have even won that game. So that is where some of us are coming from when it comes to this. And the question is whether the Black Stars can really pull themselves up by the bootstraps moving forward. Because you watched the Comoros-Gabon match yesterday, and it was hot. It was feisty. The Comoros Islands cannot be taken for granted. Gabon, even without Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, was able to pip the Comoros Islands. So it's quite a hurdle we have moving forward, isn't it?
Yes, it's a hurdle. The information, and I think for most of our lovely audience watching us around the world, you understand the Africa Cup of Nations is not a tournament that you can sit down and do calculations on paper. Let me remind everyone, Senegal played against Zimbabwe. I still think that penalty was not a right call. I really think it wasn't a right call. I thought it was too soft, and it almost looked like simulation of the point. But that's what Senegal needed to beat Zimbabwe. We saw Guinea versus Malawi, and it was that tight. Right. And like you just also hinted, in the game involving Gabon, Comoros Islands, they played very, very well. So every team is going to struggle to pick points. That's what we're going to see. Well, we're yet to see the likes of Nigeria, Egypt, Tunisia later today. Algeria later today. But this is what the Africa Cup of Nations is. Now, I just go through the game very, very, very shortly. I just go through the game. Now, Jojo Wallacott had I don't think his distribution was too good, in the game yesterday. It's something that I want to look at, but he made some fantastic saves.
Exactly.
I look at the center pairing of Daniel Amate and Alexander Djiku. Alexander Djiku, my problem with him is that he's always 5 minutes or 2 minutes away from a yellow card. We saw him take a yellow card, and so we hope that we don't lose him at some point in the competition, because if we lose him, then we have to fall on Mumin and Jonathan Mensah, who, we think they didn't do well in the game against Algeria, but definitely will come into play. At right back, we have Andy Adam. Andy Adam had a bad game yesterday. The Moroccans tried to explore the right, and then in the second half, they realized that, in Baba Rahman, they could also exploit there, and they overloaded the right side and put a lot of pressure on Baba Rahman. That led to the goal, as we saw. Right. In midfield, Baba Idris, remember, as having his first Africa Cup of Nations, and so I thought the occasion got to him. He had a few tackles wrong. It was very difficult for us to win the 50-50 balls in the midfield. Thomas Partey was torn between having to progress the ball and having to do the tackle. We could feel that.
And that was very evident.
Much.
That was very evident because he wasn't able to play
very
his
evident.
usual midfield forward role, putting through the passes, even the few ones that he put through. And when you look at the accuracy of our passes, you would see that I think the Moroccans had 70-something%, or is it 80% or so? And we were far below with 60-something%.
Almost
so
80%.
It affected that. But where would you lay the blame for the Moroccan goal? It was as quick as a flash, and it was in there. The presence of mind and all that. Where will you lay the blame?
I think that Baba Rahman had gone through a certain routine for too long, and I think he just took his eye off in that one. That's what the Americans wanted, and that's why we're overloading. So I expected the players to come back and help him. We saw that even in that goal. A number of players had opportunities. Jiku came around, couldn't touch it. Mate was there.
Yeah.
You know, after the initial...
A bit of confusion in there.
Baba Rahman. So it was a tactic. Confusion, yes. It was a tactic by Morocco to use their right side because they realized that they could go down the Baba Rahman route, and that's how they got their goal. And that's it. So it's difficult. Yes, I feel that, Baba Rahman was a guy who slept a bit, but then Jiku had the chance, as you can see. Then Thomas Partey had the chance. Then he lost the ball. And then Boufal just pounced on that and hit the ball into the net. So that is how, we went down there. Then I think I was just talking about some of the problems. When you look up front again, Kamaldeen Sulemana got frustrated at a point. I really think so. After 62 minutes, he didn't really play because a lot of his runs were not complemented by other runs by other guys, and it's basically because they're not fast enough or we're not reading the game enough. And so he went on with a little battle with Hakimi down there. The bright spot for me somehow on the right side was Joseph Pencil, who showed a lot in the game, coming in, trying to pass a bit, but he also got up front, and then there was a few issues. And Jordan Ayew, we know, hasn't scored goals yet, so that's it for me. Really,
and I'm getting there.
Go out and get it.
George, I'm getting to the Ayew brothers. I'll take them apart and look at their performance and maybe some of the issues of concern. But before we get into the Ayew brothers bit, or maybe let's just get into it. There's something else I wanted to run by you, but I shall run it by you later.
Okay.
Andre Dede Ayew, right? Andre Dede Ayew actually had that very ghastly gash on his head, and it was the medical team struggled to deal with it. He soldiered on. What can you tell us about the latest in respect of that, in terms of what his current state is and what we can expect? Can he, make the next match? Before you take that, George, we'll try to get our numbers rolling on the screen so that if you'd like to call, you can share with us what your thoughts are on the Ghana Black Stars and what you think we're going to be able to achieve moving forward. The number will be rolling on your screen. So back to you, George. What's the status of Andre Dede Ayew? Is he going to be match fit for our next encounter?
If it was just about the head injury, I know there will be a few scans this morning that would have passed him fit. But in the post-match, in the mixed zone, Andre Ayew told us that he was not feeling well in the run-up to this particular game. And if I'm going to add that to the head injury, we can only hope that he can get back and play for the team when he's fit. But we're yet to find out the extent of the injury. Of course, the medical team, are going to have a bit of assessment on the injury there. Even though he went through the game, head injuries and all of that are very critical. And so I even think it was a bit of a risk to allow him to continue, but I think he was insistent that he wanted to be on the pitch and fight for his team, like he has put it, So we'll get some more information, by the close of the day on his current state and whether he can join his colleagues in that game against Gabon.
Right. How do you, Andre, not so much fit, and then he picked up an injury. He did what he did. I'll pick a call and I'll come to you on your assessment from 1 to 10 on Jordan Ayew. I had my own issues with him. But let's pick Yusuf. Yusuf, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining. So what are your quick thoughts?
I actually watched the ball, and I would say I'm not much impressed about how the players behave on the field, because this is our own tournament, and Ghana has been one of the toughest countries to watch when it comes to football. But this time around, with the kind of players we have, those we are expecting to be playing with passion, like the Ayew brothers, because we know the likes of Abedi Pele and then Co, how they were playing for Ghana. And right now, with his children on the pitch, we are expecting so much passion, so much strength, being so aggressive to defend the nation. But right now, it's like they are the people we look up to who fail us. Because the way Jordan Ayew played yesterday, no, it was very poor. Even in his club level, he doesn't play this way.
Right.
Thomas Partey doesn't play this way in Arsenal. I don't understand why when they come to Ghana, they don't play like they do at their club level.
Right.
So frankly, with how they played yesterday, I don't think we can qualify even from the group stage. Yes.
Okay. So a bit of pessimism in there. Let's move on to Kwame from Winneba. Kwame, good morning.
Yes. Honestly, Ghana was really poor. Ghana was really poor. I'd like to talk about three things. First of all, the goalkeeper. I don't think this goalkeeper really deserves to be in the goalpost of Ghana. Honestly, I don't think he deserves. And also with Dede Ayew, I didn't know what he was really up to. Before the game, we learned he was sick and then he couldn't play. But yesterday he played, and I don't know if he's trying to tell us that he's patriotic or he's passionate, and so even though he was sick, he was able to play. I don't know what he's trying to tell Ghanaians, because even when he was injured, to the extent of bringing these bandages and kind of things on his head, I was just sitting behind my TV and just laughing. I was like, this guy, what is he trying to tell Ghanaians? Is he trying to tell us that, yeah, he's injured, but yes, still he wants to play? Because after the game, I saw a video on Facebook where there were a couple of journalists interviewing him, and I knew that this his injury was just something. Let's say, was it something really above the eye, something very small, which had a plaster on it. I was like, so this small thing, then they had to bandage the whole head as if the whole head. Seriously. Ghana is not really serious, and they are not ready to do anything different.
Okay.
The only thing I think they can do for now is to qualify from the group stages, and I don't think from there they can do anything really exceptional. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your thoughts. I don't know, because the gash kept oozing blood even after the bandage day. So I don't know whether it is as small as Kwame from Winneba is suggesting. But your final comments, we're pressed for time, George. Your final comments. First of all, how would you rate Jordan on a scale of 1 to 10? And then your final comments.
There's really no rating of Jordan. Jordan was not going to score the goal. That's what a lot of people expected. Jordan at Crystal Palace has been applying the pressure and working hard for the team. Yesterday, there was no service to the attack, very little service to the attack, so they had to drop deep, and it was very difficult for them.
Okay.
I don't think that Jordan is going to be scoring a number of goals in this competition. No, I think it's just going to be as it. We have other strikers in Benjamin.
George, you have to give me your final thoughts in 20 seconds.
They can come and make a difference.
You have to give me your final thoughts in 20 seconds. Can you do that? Let's go.
Well, I say that we have the next game to play. The competition is not over. Let's hope we can beat Gabon and the Comoros Islands.
Okay, George, thank you so much. And this is how we draw the curtains on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Look forward to tomorrow's installment. Have a good day.